Hey everyone, thanks for coming to the virtual back to school night and for your flexibility in this crazy night with this weather. I'm recording this actually before all the weather happens. We have to have one recorded just in case there's any issues, but I figured just in case anything happens, I wanted to have this recorded so I can put it online because I live, you'll learn about me. I live in the woods of North Coventry. So just welcome. I guess I'll start by talking about who I am and what I'm about, and just so you can get an idea of who your kids are spending all their time with these last couple of days. So you see, I have my background. It's actually a picture of our classroom. So I figured you could see it anyway. But my name is Mike Brilla. I am the Maroon Team Social Studies teacher for the first time in 2 years. It sounds good for me to say that. I was, for the past 2 years, I was the teacher on special assignment in charge of helping teachers to implement Google Apps and Google for Education into our curriculum. This year, I had the opportunity to head back to the classroom if I wanted to, and I jumped at it. I miss kids. I spend a lot of time with teachers, and I just miss being in the classroom with students. You can see who I am and what I'm about. This is my family. We are an O&J family, although we are all implants. My wife, Jess, teaches high school mathematics, and she helps run the IB program, also coaches field hockey. You can see right next to her, there's my son, Michael, who's in currently sixth grade at French Creek. And that's my son, Grayson, who's in third grade at French Creek in the front there. When I'm not teaching, you can usually find me hanging out with my family, spending a lot of time at Wampler, where I am on the Coventry Little League board, or coaching wrestling. See my email, umbrella.ojrst. I have to change that. It's .net, not .com. And I also have a podcast called Mr. Brilla's Musings, and I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on. There's a quote that I absolutely love. I'm a big podcast listener, and one of the ones I love to listen to is Finding Mastery by Michael Gervais. And he had that guy, Bob Hurley, on, who's founder of Hurley International, if you've ever heard of Billabong Sports. And he says, I want to be around magical human beings. I want to be part of making magic. And that's what drew me back to the classroom. I really do feel like kids they're where it's at. It's exciting. My goal as an educator is pretty simple. I want to help my students become the best and the happiest versions of themselves. And I talk to the students about how I'm going to use social studies and history to drive there. We'll see. My priorities, what I'm hoping to do is, first of all, I want to build an environment that's respectful to all individuals. We're all different. We all have different needs and different requirements. And I want to be respectful to everybody. I want to have an enjoyable environment. I want my kids to actually look forward to coming to social studies and enjoying themselves in class. Try to create a classroom that's engaging and student-centered, less about me talking and more about them doing. We will collaborate as much as we can this year. That's a piece that we missed so much on the last couple of years because of COVID. But I want to try to get our kids working together. And I want to be challenging to their level, to an appropriate level. I tell the students in the first day, welcome to my world famous learning extravaganza. And I have 4 really simple expectations. Be respectful. We talk about being respectful of not only each other, but themselves. Be on time, be engaged, and be present. As long as those students are those 4 things, life will be great for them. A note about, for you, I guess what's really important is where you can go to find some information on my classes. I do have Twitter. It's at Mr._Brilla. I don't put a whole lot of teaching stuff on there anymore. It's more just my educational philosophies. I steal ideas and I steal projects from there. But you are more than welcome to check it out. I have Guardian summaries turned on for my Google Classroom, so you'll get those weekly updates, should you choose, or regular updates, whatever you choose, how they're doing in their Google Classrooms. And then a few years ago, I started a podcast called Mr. Brilla's Musings. And it started from a challenge from one of my students who told me, she's like, you always tell us to record ourselves and put ourselves out there. What are you doing? And I was like, wow, you're right. And I created this podcast because, my son, who's in 6th grade now, I'd go home as a 3rd grader. What'd you do in school today? Nothing. I don't remember. And I'm thinking, like, if my 3rd grader already says that, I can't imagine what you guys are getting from 8th graders. So I have a weekly podcast that I put out, and it comes out at the end of the week, and it's got a few different parts to it. I talk about basically, the motivational video that we watched this week, why I like it so much, what I'm doing in my regular social studies classes, and then what we're doing in the accelerated social studies class, which is my period 4. We'll talk about what we did the prior week and what's coming up the next week, just so you have an idea of what we're doing and where we're headed. You can really find that anywhere podcasts are found. I feel like I sound cool when I say that. But I'll also send out a link to it. I record it using a thing called Anchor, but it's on all, Google, Apple, Spotify. If you find a place where it's not there, let me know and I'll see if I can get it up there. But I found that's a great way to communicate to parents. It's 10 to 15 minutes. You can listen to it on your way to work if you want to, or you can, listen to it whenever. We will use Google Classroom quite a bit. And like I said, I had the benefit of being the person kind of charged with helping everybody implement Google Classroom. So hopefully it will look kind of familiar to your students and to you. I have a system where it's today, classroom resources, and older work. So the students know right away this is what we're doing in class today. These are some of the things that we'll have persistently or we'll use, and then anything that they've done in the past. I do have in the older resources, I have a link to a folder of all our Google slides that we do each day, our presentations. I keep a presentation of what we do every single day just to kind of more or less keep myself in line, not so much the students, but you can go ahead and you can see what we're doing each day in class. I number everything that the students are expected to do or interact with on Google Classroom. I number. Start with that with the number sign of the hashtag 001. And then by the end of the year, we'll be up into the high 100s, maybe even 200s. This way, it's an easy, quick reference for the students. They can also, and this, I haven't talked to them about this yet, but they can use that numbering to search in their Google Drive for something. So like tomorrow, they're going to start working on a number 2 Google or slide deck. So if they can't find it, they can just type in their search hashtag 002 and it goes right to that document. It will also help you with understanding what's graded and where it's at on Skyward, because I feel like naming conventions are key. So if you look on Skyward and your student is missing hashtag 054, you go right to Google Classroom and there you'll find 054. I'll also include titles and assignments. But everything that's graded will come through that Google Classroom and you can see. I do, as a note on Skyward, I guess I should say that we're currently looking at how we report and how we do Skyward. But as of right now, if a student is missing an assignment on Skyward, I put in a 0 and missing, just so they know that they're missing it. If they turn it in, I take the 0 out, I unmark it as missing, and then I'll grade it. Usually I grade the makeup work or the late work at the end of each week. That way students kind of have an idea of where they're at, or you do as well. Content. This is the first year they're back to American history, and I actually have a lot of students who are quite excited to get some American history this year. We'll talk about each quarter a different content roughly. We have the American government the first quarter. We talk about westward expansion and the physical growth of the United States the second quarter. We talk about the growth of industry in cities in the third quarter. And then finally, the fourth quarter is the Civil War and Reconstruction, which, fingers crossed, I'm hoping we can do our annual Gettysburg field trip, which if you've ever wanted to chaperone a field trip, that's the one to do. So keep an eye out for when we get those resources out. On the day-to-day basis, what the class looks like, I try and have some sort of structure. Kids love structure. Have some sort of daily task that right away they come in, they have a do now. I try and have a good balance between our time together and time individual. I feel like if they're always working alone, it gets lonely. But if they're always working together, they might not be doing that heavy mental lifting. And then a note on homework and dates. Dates are just that, due dates. So I will tell the students, like, if your assignment is due at 5 o'clock on Thursday night, they have till 5 o'clock on Thursday night. I really don't give nightly homework. If they have any homework in class, it's because they weren't, for one reason or another, they weren't able to finish in class what they were supposed to or what they wanted to do. I try and get as much done in class, and the students will do quite a bit, but they have due dates. Now, as far as grading and assessment goes, we'll have some quizzes from time to time, but we are primarily a project-based class. We do have one civics exam, which is something that by law, it's state mandated. Every Pennsylvania student between the grades of 8 through 12 have to have a civics exam. It fits perfectly in our curriculum. So at the end of the first quarter, there will be one big test, and more on that later. The students will get study guides and whatever. We'll work towards that towards the end. But most everything else is project based, where the students will be doing assignments and doing things that really hopefully a lot of choice. I do wholeheartedly believe in second chance learning, and I believe in allowing for times where students to mess up. To that end, students can redo and retake assignments, and students can turn work in late. You know, I realize they're eighth graders. We're all human. Sometimes we fall down. So I ask the students, though, anytime they redo something or anytime they do turn an assignment late, there's a little ticket in my room that they fill it out, basically asking them some questions as, you know, what it was, what happened, why is it late, or why did they not do a great job? How do they plan on making sure that doesn't happen again? And then we go from there, just so there is some sort of planning with that. As always, if you have any questions, thank you so much for taking the time to reach out. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. Embro@OJSD, I know it says .com, but it's .net.com. I still think will get to me, but don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks, everybody.